Welcome back, everyone. We just talked about a little bit of recruiting news around the country, and now it's time for a Spotlight Wednesday. And we are talking about the Tennessee Volunteers today. A ton riding on this season, a team that could make a lot of noise, honestly. They are right on the outside of the SEC, of the top dogs of the SEC, that is. But a chance to jump right into the top dogs, even in this transfer portal coming up. But let's do this how we usually do. We'll break down the offense, the defense, the schedule, and then we'll go through kind of my overall thoughts and just kind of a mini prediction, I suppose, for how I expect this season to go. But let's jump right in and let's talk about their offense. And obviously, the quarterback room is what everyone is talking about. Nico Iamaleava taking over for Joe Milton is something that I think these fans have been longing for quite some time. I'll be totally honest with you. Nico is a remarkably talented quarterback, has had a great spring thus far, and definitely has made Tennessee fans very, very excited for this upcoming season. As we know, first-year starter in the SEC is a tough situation, but the talent is off the charts, the ability is off the charts. If you can put it together, this team is very interesting. But let's go over to running backs. They are replacing Jalen Wright at running back, a absolute speedster. That was a huge part of their offense a year ago. They do have Dylan Sampson on the roster, who is someone who is plenty capable of stepping into that starting role. Has about, I think, a little bit over 800 yards over his 2 years at Tennessee, but now stepping into a big-time role. It's possible that they dip their toe into the water to get a running back if the right one comes available in this upcoming portal, but at the end of the day, I think Dylan Sampson is more than capable of making this happen, and as we know with Josh Heupel, he does a remarkable job of putting running backs in really good positions. And then let's get to this wide receiver group. It is remarkably deep. I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. There's not necessarily that alpha that I tend to talk about when I talk about wide receiver rooms, but when you have these many guys, it might not matter. They have Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, Dante Thornton all coming back this year. Dante Thornton was a transfer from Oregon that had a kind of an up and down year, made some plays definitely for Tennessee, but wasn't necessarily the guy that they wanted him to be. He's taking another step forward this year, I would assume. And then Chris Braswell II transferred over from Tulane. He might actually be the wide receiver one in this group. Remarkably talented, had an incredible year last year with Tulane. And then you have guys like Chaz Nimrod, who made big-time plays last year. They're just remarkably deep, and they can do a ton of different things with rotations and keep these defenses on their toes. So very, very excited to see this. I think this wide receiver group, while you might not have the Jalen Hyatt of the group or the Cedric Tillman of the group, but you definitely do have plenty of talent in that room for Nico to spread the ball out to. So Tennessee fans should be feeling pretty good about that. The tight ends are very solid as well. Holden Stays coming over from Notre Dame is a huge part of that. He will definitely be the number one guy. There's not a ton behind him. There are some younger guys that definitely could make big-time jumps and be a bigger part of this offense, but I expect Holden Stays to be the go-to guy, to be kind of the every down tight end for them. So very excited to see what he can do. He was stuck behind Mitchell Evans a little bit last year, who's one of the best tight ends in the country. So found a new place to play, and I think it was a great place for him. And then O-line group is a really solid group. They're returning 4 starters, brought in Lance Hurd from LSU, which is an absolutely huge pickup, a guy that almost definitely will be playing on Sundays here pretty soon, is remarkably talented, remarkably long, but is taking over a left tackle position that is a big-time position. It will be the first time he plays big-time snaps week over week, and he's going to have to be ready for it. They got guys, Cooper Mays and Andre Karich are coming back. They're a good duo at center and left guard, so that left side of the line is going to be a little bit stronger, and that will help Lance Hurd kind of get a little bit more comfortable in this system. And I think it's a really, really solid group. You definitely could use a little bit more top-line talent, but definitely if they can put it together and be a unit of 5, I think they could be really, really solid this year and give Nico plenty of time to kind of dice up these defenses the way he's capable of. But let's move over to the defensive side of the ball, and let's start with the D-line. It's a solid group. There's not necessarily any total game changers on the interior. I think they have Bryson Eason is a definite guy that's coming back that is going to be huge for them. He made some big time plays last year. I think started 7 games if I'm not mistaken. So definitely has that experience. Will be a big time player for them. They could dip their toe into the water for this one, but not necessarily sure how great they feel about them coming out of spring. It could be that they feel totally fine, but if the right guy comes on the market, I wouldn't be surprised if they at least gave them a call. And then edge is where the money's going to be made on this defense. The edge is going to be a huge position, and it's just because James Pierce Jr. might just be, at least for my money, is the best returning edge in the country. He might be the best defensive player in the country. Now, I tend to lean a little bit more Caleb Downs' direction, but I fully understand if you go James Pearson route. But he's a total difference maker, will be a nightmare for pretty much every left tackle he faces throughout the year. Had 10 sacks a year ago, and I expect him to increase on that. So I think he's just going to be remarkable, and he's one of the few guys that is a non-quarterback that could go number 1 overall in next year's draft, depending on just how dominant he is. Now, the linebacker room is a little bit interesting. Keenan Pili is someone that is huge to get back. They're bringing him back after he was injured in the season opener a year ago. He could be absolutely huge for them at middle linebacker. And then you have someone like Arian Carter, who is absolutely just an athletic freak. He is someone that can do so many different things. Very, very solid duo for them. I think this is another position where they might just dip their toe into the transfer portal waters, but we'll see what happens there. I think this back end of this defense is interesting. They're losing guys like Kamal Hayden and Jalen McCullough, who were big-time players for them and definitely will be tough to replace. The portal has given them some options, for sure. Jermaine McCoy coming over from Oregon State, Jacoby Thomas coming over from Middle Tennessee State, both players that are going to have to be absolutely huge for them. Andre Tarentine, who I think you can see over here at some point in one of these slides, is going to be a big-time player returning for them in the back end of that defense. It's definitely a capable group, but they're going to have to put it together and make sure that these starters are ready to roll, because it's going to be a lot of big-time passing attacks coming that way this season. But let's get into the schedule finally, and it's pretty manageable. It's a confusing schedule, to be totally honest with you, but let's jump in. An easy win over Chattanooga to start. At least I hope it's an easy win. Then they're handed a really tough matchup against NC State in Charlotte in week 2, and that one is scary. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I talked about NC State and their spring game. I have high expectations for the Wolfpack this year, and this is a place where they can make a big-time statement. Tennessee does not want to enter SEC play with a loss, so it's going to be tough, but if they can come out and win that one, and if somehow they can win it convincingly, then Tennessee will definitely get my attention very, very quickly. Then they have Kent State on the docket before they take a trip to Oklahoma. This will be Oklahoma's first SEC game, will be Tennessee's first game against Oklahoma as SEC foes, and this one's going to be fun. I've talked a little bit about it when going through the best games of every week. This was definitely on the list. And Josh Heupel going back to his old team. Brent Venables playing a team that he does not love necessarily by any means. So it'll be very interesting to see that one unfold. And then coming off a bye, they head into a game against Arkansas before coming home to play Florida. A game that they're just going to have to win. Both those games are really games that they're going to have to win if they want to be the team that a lot of Tennessee fans expect this year. So they're going to have to get those wins, because the one coming right after them is the third weekend in October, and you all know what that means. It's Bama time. So things get very, very quickly. If they can make things happen, there is a bye after this game, so definitely shapes up for them to, at the very least, leave everything on the field and possibly pull off some of that 2021 magic. But I think that's the game that if they can win that one, they are no longer, an interesting team that you're watching. They're downright a contender that deserves the ultimate attention as we go on throughout the season. The back end of the schedule is very doable. After, the Georgia and the Bama games kind of rear their ugly head, or I guess the Georgia game is coming up here, but Kentucky out of town, Kentucky at home to start. after the bye, and then you have a tough game, or that will be a tough game, and definitely will be one that will be a ton of fun. I'm excited to see Brock Vandegrift against Nico Iamaleava. I think those are two guys that are very young, have remarkably high ceilings that I think they could hit. And if they do, this game will be big time when it comes around. But then you have Mississippi State coming to town before a big time trip to Athens. You have to do it every year. It's a tough one every single year, it feels like. But they definitely are capable of making noise. If they win that game, then things get very interesting. But then they finish off with UTEP and at Vandy, two likely wins. They should be able to roll there. So in a year where you face Bama and UGA on your schedule, this is about as good as it gets. Not going to be easy, definitely doable. If Nico can kind of hit that ceiling that a lot of people have given him, they could definitely pull this off and do remarkable do remarkable things this year. I think this is a remarkably talented group. I think Nico is more than capable of stepping into those big-time shoes and delivering pretty much right away, but you never really know. It's going to be an interesting road, and this schedule, while doable, is definitely still an SEC schedule. There's no two ways about that. But some final thoughts on them and kind of where they sit. I think we know what Josh Heupel is capable of when he has the quarterback in place. He proved that in 2021 with Hendon Hooker. Honestly, if Hendon Hooker doesn't get injured, they might be in the playoff. Hendon Hooker might have a Heisman Trophy right now. A lot of things might be different. Nico Iamaleava could be better than Hendon Hooker. I'll be totally honest with you. In fact, I expect him, at least in the long run, to be better than Hendon Hooker. It might not be this year, but he's definitely someone that the talent is just off the charts with this kid. This team is capable of doing just so many different things. We talked about the defensive side of the ball. The offense is going to be huge. If the offense is, a 2021 type offense, the good news for them is they have an absolute game changer on defense in James Pierce Jr. that they didn't have in 2021. So I think this is something that this team, if they can put it together on the offensive side of the ball, the defense is going to give them plenty of opportunities throughout the year. So very excited to see what this team can do. I like this team a lot. The level of pressure that Nico Iamaleava is going to be under is going to be tough. It's something like he's never experienced before, but I think he's capable of making it happen. I think he's capable of handling it. But we'll see. It'll be really, really interesting to watch this team throughout the spring, into the summer and fall, but we will keep you updated. I am very, very glad it is not prediction time because I am not comfortable making a prediction on this team right now. They are very tough to nail down, especially before this transfer portal window, but we will definitely touch on them afterwards because I think they'll be a little bit active in this portal window if I had to guess. But that will do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a ton to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference for us. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the social pages for all the updates and content you could possibly need. We have so many people covering every sport you could possibly think of. So if you're a football fan, basketball fan, baseball fan, wrestling fan, we got it all covered on our page. So definitely give us a follow there. But thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.